finding my way. Growing up is not so tough, except when I've had enough. But there's lots of fun stuff. I'm Caillou, Caillou, Caillou. I'm Caillou. That's me.
Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. I can go anywhere. Friends to know and ways to grow, a reading rainbow. I can be anything. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. A reading rainbow. A reading rainbow. A reading rainbow. A reading rainbow.
Clifford needed Emily, so she chose him for her own. And her love made Clifford grow so big that the Howards had to leave their home. Clifford's the best friend anyone could know. He's the greatest dog ever, I really think so. Clifford's so loyal, he's there when you call. I love Clifford, the big red dog. So they packed up a family car, and the Howards left the city. They moved to Birdwell Island, and their many new friends there to greet Clifford and Emily. Clifford's so much fun, he's a friend to us all. I love Clifford, the big red dog. Clifford needed Emily, so she chose him for her own. And her love made Clifford grow so big that the Howards had to leave their home. Clifford's the best friend anyone could know. He's the greatest dog ever, I really think so. Clifford's so loyal, he's there when you call. I love Clifford, the big red dog. So they packed up a family car, and the Howards left the city. They moved to Birdwell Island, and their many new friends there to greet Clifford and Emily. Clifford's so much fun, he's a friend to us all. I love Clifford, the big red dog.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Bill Nye the Science Guy. Science rules. Bill Nye the Science Guy. Inertia is a property of matter. Bill
Nye the Science Guy.
Bill. T-minus 10 seconds. Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Zaboomafu
with the Crab Brothers.
While walking in the woods one day, Chris and Martin saw something strange. A little leaping lemur who liked to
Hey, hello everyone. Good evening. We're happy to have you here. Very cognizant of your time, and especially during the dinner hour. So we wanted to get rolling right away. I'm hoping to have a couple more folks attending. But for right now, you folks are it, so we appreciate it. Once again, we thank you this evening for attending the Cyberchase Green It Up Pollinators presentation. And if you I think I got information from everyone on this. And if not, I'll reach out to you later. But certainly here is the website that lists all of the sessions rather, with the links. And I'm going to show it again and put it in the chat room later. Feel free to share that with your colleagues or maybe your friends and family and anyone else that would like to attend some of these sessions. We're excited about the possibilities, and we're really excited about this program itself. My name is Jeff Good. I am the Chief Education Technology Officer for PBS Western Reserve in Kent, Ohio.
And I'm Pam Oviatt, and I'm the Early Learning Coordinator at PBS Western Reserve.
So we really appreciate your time. If you're not familiar with the series, the TV series, Cyberchase, as the slide here says, it's America's longest running math series. We air it on PBS Western Reserve on Sundays at 8 a.m. So, and really the focus has been of Cyberchase, being the long running series that it is, has been math and really in a lot of STEM activities. But we had a great, this program kind of started way before the pandemic, and we were working in collaboration with WNET, who is the creator of Cyberchase, and they started the Cyberchase Green It Up project. And so we had lots of opportunities to try to do this, and then the pandemic hit. So we're very fortunate we have opportunity to wrap this up and give you some summer resources. And it works so closely and so nicely now with the weather being as good as it is with these outside activities. Just so you know, there's 4 virtual training modules, so there's really 3 plus a big finale. And I think what you'll find as we're going through these is, our hope is that the resources that you receive will help your students explore their environment, and then kind of build those critical thinking skills, and then take that and take action into their communities. So we're going to be covering tonight pollinators. Tomorrow night we have container gardens, veggie and fruit container gardens. But each module focuses on one of those topics, and we really hope that when kids are done, they can really utilize and go out in their community and be advocates for the environment. And Pam, do you want to talk a moment about the activity that we're going to be doing today?
Absolutely. Part of the exploration today is that we're going to look at pollination and how it happens. And the activity that we're going to do is that we're going to have cups, and you got cups with some pom-poms and confetti of different colors. And you're going to put the confetti and the pom-poms in a cup, and then each cup of the big cups, each explorer will have their own cup and a pair of tweezers, and they're going to try to go into the cup, the flower, and get the nectar, which is the pom-pom. And when they get the nectar and they pull the nectar out, they're going to see what happens and how pollination can happen, because it's awfully hard to just get the nectar. And then they're going to go from flower to flower or cup to cup and put it in their cup. And that's a simulation of what happens with pollination. So we're going to look at that. And while we're doing that activity, and before we do that activity, you got a Cyberchase Jotter notebook. Use your notebook to write down clues or even thoughts, or draw pictures of what's going on, because as scientists and people involved in STEM, you want to record those things. So use your Jotter notebooks. Then Jeff's going to refer to this again, but we have a family activity book for each explorer today, and that will go home with you, and there's activities that you and your family can do and extend the learning in your family. Also, we had a poster we sent to all of you that shows all of the activities of Green It Up. We're doing 4 of the 8. The other 4 are included in this poster, and we sent you the guide activities too for that to do in your program to extend this Cyberchase Green It Up event even longer. So there you have it, Jeff.
And I'm just trying to, for some folks that may not have received the of the activity materials, I'm trying to type here real quick. If you're interested in doing the pollinator activity and you may not have received the materials, what I'd suggest for you to do is get a cup of sugar and maybe a cup of brown sugar, and if you've got some tweezers, we can't do all the colors that we provide to you, but you could at least try to, and have an empty cup, and then have your participants take a pair of tweezers and try to pull the white grains of sugar out of the one cup, try to pull the grains of sugar out of the brown sugar cup. Any other thoughts, Pam, that folks could do if they do not have the materials?
Yeah, and if you have something like raisins, you could put that in the sugar too. So they would try to get the raisins and the sugar would come along with them. If you didn't get the materials and still would like to have them, if you would get us your address, we'll get those materials right in the mail right away to you so that you'll be able to catch up with the others.
Wonderful. So we were talking, thank you, Pam, for doing that overview, and it may give some folks some time if they don't have, just to kind of come up with an idea of how they might participate in that activity. We've obviously got the 3 sessions, and then we have the big finale at the end. What we really hope to happen in the big finale is that the facilitators will work with those students that are at their facilities, and really talk about, for lack of a better term, activism. We would like you all to get together and talk about the 3 sessions that you attended, and then put together a PSA video that you could video with your phone, create a poster, I've had folks even talk about doing kind of a small podcast. You can do all of those things that talk about how those students are now going to go out in their community and talk about and deal with their environmental issues. Your students will also receive a Green It Up pledge form. And then on that pledge form, they're going to sign that, and then your students are going to really lay out a plan of how they're going to make a difference in their community. So quickly, we're talking about explorations that are going to run about 30 to 45 minutes. We're going to have 4 of those total, including that big finale. We're going to do our explorations. All of our interaction is through the chat room. So if you've got any questions throughout the presentation, if you've got some questions, we want interaction from all of you. So if you're not familiar with where the chat button is, it sits right around in about the middle of your, a little bit off the middle of your screen. If you want to click on that, and when we ask for questions and responses to questions, we'd love to have you get involved. Each exploration includes an explore activity, and that's going to happen during the virtual exploration. And then we have a get outside activity, and that's going to happen after. That's one of those activities that as a facilitator, we'd love for you to spend time with your students and do that get outside activity. And then finally, we've got a take-home activity, a family activity that's going to be part of that family guide that you all will receive. And that's an activity that the students can now go home and deal with their moms and dad, their sister and brothers, their grandfather and grandfathers, their aunts and uncles, and get them involved with another activity related to the Green It Up Cyberchase project. We offer these explorations 3 times a day. We do a breakfast one from 9 to 10, lunch one from 12 to 1, and then we do a dinner one, which is the one that you're attending right now. And we ask folks if you've done pictures or if you've got videos. I've already started receiving pictures from folks from the earlier explorations that we had today. Please send those to education@pbswesternreserve.org, and we'll make sure to highlight those in future trainings. So don't want to spend a whole lot of time on what we need to get going. So let's talk a little bit about pollinators, right, Pam?
Right, and thank you, Jeff. I can't wait to see some of those pictures that are coming in. So today, looking at pollinators, we're going to look at what are they? What is a pollinator? And as you're thinking about this, what do they do? What do pollinators do, and where do they live? And why are they so important to all of us? Pollinators are very important to our everyday lives. So we're going to take a good hard look at that and find out all about that. So Jeff?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we want to talk about too is on every session that we have, it starts out with not only these questions, but it does then lead into this big idea. All of our sessions are going to have this big idea. So when we're talking about pollinators and what are they and what do they do, one of the things that we first realized, and I keep forgetting to change this slide, but that pollinators are animals and insects that help spread pollen from one plant to another, so that those more plants, or it actually increases the number of plants, as well as increases the amount of fruit that those plants give. So that's one of the big ideas.
Yeah, another big idea, Jeff, are pollinators are necessary for growing many fruits and vegetables and even most flowers.
And I think finally we'll talk a little bit about how many pollinators are potentially losing their habitats. And if that's a word if that's a new word to some of you, a habitat's just like your home. So what you find is a lot of these pollinators we'll discover are starting to lose their habitat. And I think what you're going to find out is it's not a very good thing. So let's take a closer look. We've got Cyberchase, a quick little episode, cut from an episode. It's about a little over a minute. But what I want you to all do as you're watching this episode is to think about, first of all, you're going to get introduced to the character Bridget, and so begin to ask yourself, why are the bats so important to Bridget? And then think about, how do the bats, what do the bats do to help the cactus? And then how do the bats pollinate those plants? And then finally, when you watch this 1 minute worth of a segment, what do you think might be keeping the bats away?
See? Hungry bats come to my garden to drink the nectar from my apple cactus flowers.
Is this gonna happen all day, Nezzy?
Maybe. And don't call me Nessie. When they drink, they get pollen from the flowers on themselves. They don't mean to, but they do. That's the gold dusty stuff. Then they carry the pollen from one flower to another. That's pollination.
Bats are so cool.
Not looking.
I'm confused. You have flowers, then you get the fruit?
Watch. Over time, the pollinated flower grows into a cactus apple.
So, no bats means no pollination. And if there's no pollination, then there are no cactus apples, which means...
No cactus apple juice! I just need a moment.
So let's ask those questions to everyone. Why, and go into the chat room, our sites out there, but why do you think, and why did you see in that segment, why were those bats so important to Bridget? And then what did the bats do to help those cactus? And then how do the bats pollinate? It's interesting, they use a word, and we'll talk about it after we look for your answers. And then what do you think might be keeping the bats away? So look at these questions, talk amongst yourselves, your resources and your sites, and then type in a response or something in regards to some of these questions in the chat room. We hope you enjoyed that 1 minute's worth of video. So go ahead, Pam.
Okay, well, I wrote lots of notes, Jeff, about different things. And I think if they don't get that pollen, the cactus are in trouble. I think it's so important, and they need those bats to pollinate those plants. And then, Jeff, one of the other notes that I wrote in my notebook was I saw that gold dust around their face, and I thought, that's the pollen that is stuck to their face as they tried to get the nectar. And as they go to the next plant to get more nectar, they may rub that off, what they had on their face, into that other plant. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, what I found interesting is I love the idea of, I'm going to send this out real quick. I love the idea that and we've talked about this the last two sessions, is I don't think that any of the pollinators, as we talk about jobs, I don't think their main job is ever to go out and decide that they're going to pollinate. They reference it with the bat, it's kind of accidental. You know, the bat is trying to get the nectar, but in the process, they accidentally get the pollen on them, which then they move to another flower to get more nectar, which means that pollen comes off of them and mixes with that flower, and that's where they get pollination. You know, one of the things I also put in my notebook is the whole idea of, it's not so much that, it's kind of one of those reference things, right? It's not so much that the plants will die if they're not pollinated, but if you think about it, they won't flower, they won't bear fruit. And what do you find in fruit that keeps the plants going are seeds. So yes, not directly, if they don't get pollinated, that I think one of our earlier sessions talked about, the plants will die. I don't think they'll die, but they just won't grow and they won't continue unless they have pollination. And I see that that Evan has reached out because the bats are important because they won't make cactus apples, which are food for other animals. I didn't even think of that one, where basically, without the apples, they don't create that food source for other animals that other animals are looking for. Oh, there you go, Jeff. They're thinking. What are some other things from the group that we've got, folks? We've got, looks like it's just Lisa and Evan now. What are some, so we've got Evan. Lisa, if you come up with something you want to share your way, we'd love to see it. So let's move on. Okay. And so one of the pollinators that I never thought of as being a pollinator, and later on we'll discuss the pollinator I think all of us think of when we think of pollination. I've never thought of bats as pollinators. But let's take a closer look at bats and keep in mind some of the questions to think about is when you watch this videos, where do bats live? What do bats do? And what should you do if you find a bat?
So what are we going to learn today?
Bats.
You mean bats? Or bats? Or bats?
No, bats. Bats are mammals. They have furry bodies. Their wings are really webbed hands with thin skin stretched from their long fingers to their back legs. Bats are the only mammals that fly. A few other mammals can glide, but bats are true flapping flyers. The fastest bat can fly at more than 30 miles per hour. One of the biggest bats is the golden-capped fruit bat. It's a fruit-eating bat with a wingspan of more than 5 feet. The smallest bat, and indeed the world's smallest mammal, is the hog-nosed or bumblebee bat. It weighs less than 2 grams and is the size of a bumblebee. Worldwide, there are more than 1,200 different kinds of bats. Bats sleep during the day and feed at night. Most bats find their food using echolocation. They make rapid, high-frequency sounds. These sound waves bounce off their prey and travel back to the bat's ears. The bats hear the echo and find their dinner. Some bats eat things like fruit or frogs or small birds, but most bats eat insects. Little brown bats can catch 250 mosquito-sized insects in 15 minutes. A bat eats about half its own weight in insects each night. If you weighed 100 pounds, that would be like eating 50 one-pound pizzas every day. Many bats live in colonies. Their homes are called roosts. Just like you and me, bats need shelter from the weather, protection from enemies, and a place to rest. Some live in caves or trees, but others live under bridges or inside old buildings. Pups, or baby bats, are born in the summer. In the winter, some bats migrate to warmer climates, others hibernate. Scientists study bats because a lot of these small flying mammals are threatened. Many bats are in trouble because people disturb them while they're roosting or remove them from their homes. So if you find a bat, it's important to leave it alone. Bats are also in trouble from a new disease called white nose syndrome. So if you go into a cave, change your clothes and clean your shoes and gear so you don't spread disease from one cave to another.
But bats can be scary.
Well, movies and TV shows haven't been very nice to bats. But in China, bats are symbols of good luck. Bats are a really important part of our ecosystem. They eat lots of insects and help pollinate crops and spread seeds. Humans need bats. And sadly, about 25% of the world's bats are threatened with extinction. So we need to do more to protect these amazing animals.
Oh, Jeff, I wrote a lot on my notebook this time. I was looking at all of them and I learned something, that bats are the only mammals that fly. And they didn't use this word, but I've heard it used for other animals, and we didn't talk about this in the first two, but there's a word for animals that like to sleep during the day and then active at night. Does anyone know what that? Oh, there we go. Thank you. Evan got it. That's nocturnal. Yeah. So if an animal is nocturnal,
They are very active at night, and during the day, that's when they sleep. So remember that word also. I'm trying to think what else I threw out there. If they talked about the name for a bat family, and they gave the name for a baby bat. Does anyone remember what those are?
Jeff, on my notes, I wrote down that they call their family a roost.
They did talk about how bats are in colonies, so that's something to remember. But there was a name for a baby bat. What was that name? And if you, it would be very much like Simba in The Lion King. What was Simba? Simba was a cub. So I did remember that, right? Is that correct,
Yeah.
Pam? I think that we've talked about so many different things.
Right. Well, yes, the puppet. Yes. So bats.
But keep in mind too, as we talked about, the beauty of bats, especially this time of year, is the amount of, and they use the term mosquito-sized insects, but they eat a lot of mosquitoes this time of year. And if you're like me, I don't like getting bit by mosquitoes because I don't like the outcome. So bats are my friend, even though I'm not a real bat-friendly person. I recognize that they do some really good things in the summertime as far as eating up insects.
You know, Jeff, Elisa's little angel said, wow, they eat half of their weight every day. Around 250 mosquitoes can be eaten in 15 minutes. That's a lot of insects.
That is a lot of insects. So those are all things as we looked at that last video. We learned about where bats live. We learned about what bats do. And what did they say? Do you remember what they said if you were to find a bat? They said that bats live in caves, bats live in abandoned houses, but I can remember as a kid, a bat got into our house, and we didn't quite know what to do, but we eventually captured the bat and took it back outside. That's something that they didn't tell you to do in this one. But definitely you don't want to, you really want to find someone that can take care of that bat and get it back outside if it happens to be in your house. Yeah,
those baby bats or pups that are so important.
And Lisa, you're right. They talked about the sickness that's hitting bats, and that if you go into bat caves and you move from bat cave to bat cave, you really should be cleaning yourself, changing your clothes, taking a shower, so you don't transfer that disease from one colony to another. So all great responses. Thank you so much, everyone. So Pam's going to talk a little bit about pollinating activity.
Well, and now we come to the part where we do a hands-on exploration, and we're back to those cups that we talked about earlier. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the cups with the different pom-poms and confetti, and then you're going to reach down in there, and this is your beak, this is your way of getting the nectar, and you're going to try to get those pom-poms. So you're going to reach in, and I reached in, and oh, look, I have not only the pom-pom, but I have some pollen, and I'm going to put those in my cup. And as I go to another flower of a different color, I'm going to have that too. I'm going to reach in and have a different color. And so you're going to put that in your cup and see how it works with the simulation of how pollination happens. So we're going to give you 5 minutes to do that. If you don't have the activity and have made it with raisins or sugar like we talked about in the very beginning, try that. And if not, we'll get those materials to you at another time. had a good time going back and forth between the flowers. I put up a couple questions, and how many flowers do you think a pollinator may go to at a time? Do they have to go to many to get nectar, to get enough? I don't know the answer, but it just makes me wonder how many it would take to give them enough nectar. And was it easy? Is it easy to get the nectar? You can see that as you're trying to pull the pom-pom, you're trying to pull something out through something else, it will hold up, it will come with it, like just like that gold dust that you saw around the bat's mouth. So Jeff, I know you've talked about other pollinators, and when I first thought of pollinators too, I thought of the standard pollinator, and I know you've talked about that, the one we most readily go to.
Yes, and actually it's between 1 and 2. I think my top 2 pollinators, if I had a top pollinator list, would be, I always think of the bee, and we have apple orchards behind our house, and I often see the beehives that are dropped off in the spring that allow those bees to go to the apple trees and help those trees get pollinated. Another pollinator that I always forget about is the butterfly. And so we're going to look at a video right now that talks a little bit about other pollinators, and watch what it talks about. I'll drop some links in because they talk about a really fun little program, and well, we'll get back together in a bit.
Hey girls and boys, I'm Abby Brown. When we visit the zoo, we get to see all kinds of animals. Some we may never see anywhere else in Iowa, and others we see all of the time, even in our own backyards. Have you ever heard of a pollinator? It's usually an insect that moves pollen from one plant to another. A pollinator helps flowers to bloom and fruit to grow just by taking pollen from one place to another. It's pretty incredible, right? With a little knowledge and a thirst for adventure, you can help bring pollinators like butterflies into your own neighborhood. Go wild with Iowa PBS and the Blank Park Zoo as we help Iowa's pollinators. Seasons are one really important thing with these corals. With our seals and sea lions, if you peek outside right now, do you see any flowers or plants? Do you notice any bees or birds or butterflies? We can spot most of them in the spring, summer, and even fall here in Iowa. And my friend Chris from the Blank Park Zoo is going to show us how we might be able to attract these animals to benefit their habitats and life cycles.
Hi, I'm Chris from the Blank Park Zoo. Thanks for coming and joining us today. I would like to talk to you today about our Plant Grow Fly program. With our Plant Grow Fly program, we like to focus on our monarchs, and monarchs are a really important butterfly to Iowa. So they'll be starting to come up from the south, and as they're coming up, they're going to be looking for a specific milkweed. And milkweed is a flower that they will put their eggs on. And that's called a host plant for their eggs. And as the eggs, when they hatch, the caterpillars will eat on the milkweed, and then they'll become beautiful monarch butterflies. And I'll give you a sample of what you might see as a monarch butterfly flying around. So we have a male and a female, and the males have the little dots right there on their wings, so that's how you can tell them apart. Plus they're a little bit more showy and a little more colorful, so that's how you can tell a male from a female. So also today what I'm going to show you is how to make a seed bomb, and this is something that you can do at home pretty easily. It doesn't take a whole lot of supplies. You can get some clay, so you can get that from if you have clay in your backyard or in your yard, you can use that, or you can go to the store and get some clay. All this is natural stuff that'll go right back into the earth and it'll break down, and hopefully the flowers will bloom. you're gonna flatten it in the middle. So you're gonna make like maybe like a bird's nest. That's kind of how I look at it. So you take your thumb and you make a nice big hole inside your clay there. So everybody see that? Then what you're gonna do is put a little potting soil in there, or a little dirt too. You can get that from your yard, or if you have potting soil from your flowers that you planted around your house. And then you're gonna put your seeds. So we have some milkweed seed here, and we have some other flowers in here like aster and coneflower, and all these will be nice showy plants, and they'll be great nectar sources. So we're gonna put those right inside the little ball here. And then we're gonna close it up real tight. Roll it tight up in your hands. So you make like a donut hole. Get it nice and tight in there. Then you're gonna let it dry. And you're gonna let it dry, usually I like to put right in my windowsill and let them dry there. And then when they're all dried, I'll take my seed balls and then I'll throw them out into my garden, which is a lot of fun to do. Or maybe I might find a grater ditch and throw them out into the grater ditch to get some more of the milkweed out there, or other pollinating flowers out there for our butterflies. So some of the things to think about when you're making a garden for butterflies and for other pollinators, you want to make sure that you have host plants. So host plants are important because that's what the butterfly is going to lay their egg on. So to have more butterflies and more caterpillars, you need host plants. So some really good, besides milkweed, some other good host plants are dill. I love the dill. It helps our with our swallowtails. Another one would be purple prairie coneflower or clover. Those are also really good host plants. The other thing you need is to have nectar. So nectar plants are going to be the ones that have the sweetness to them. So they're going to give our butterflies and our hummingbirds something that they can eat on, and then they can help pollinate other plants as they go. Cosmos are really good and pretty easy, and zinnias. I love the zinnias. They're really showy and really, really bright, and you can plant new ones every single year. So they're annuals because you can plant new ones every year. So that's something I really like to do. When you're looking at your butterfly gardens area, you want to make sure that you have sunlight so that the plants can grow. And you want to make sure you have water, so that's important for the plants, but also for the butterflies because they need water, and so do our hummingbirds. And then you want to make sure that you have areas where they can sun on themselves. So some rocks are really nice, so they can feel that sun, they can get warm, and kind of also enjoy the garden that you made for them when they're out there. So again, we have our seed balls that you'll make, and you want to plant flowers for our monarchs and for other butterflies that you're going to find here in Iowa. And we're really excited to have you part of the Blank Park Zoo Plant Grow Fly program. For more information, you can always go to the Plant Grow Fly website, on the zoo's website, to find out, what do I need for my garden? How do I plant my garden? Where do I find all these awesome plants that you're talking about? Then the next thing you can do is register your garden on our website, because we want to know all about your garden. What did you name it? What are the flowers you have in there? Are you in north central Iowa? Are you in southern Iowa? Are you from another state? We want to know, where are you planting these flowers? And tell us all about them, and then we'll send you a certificate to say that you're part of the garden, you're part of the Plant Grow Fly program. Thank you today for coming out and making seed balls with us, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Chris. Attracting those beautiful pollinators to our neighborhoods can be a wonderful challenge and rewarding not only for us, but for the butterflies too. Thank you everyone for going wild with Iowa PBS and the Blank Park Zoo. I'm Abby Brown, and always remember to ask questions and wonder. That's what science is all about.
Every time I watch this video, I want to go out and create a butterfly garden. I think that's going to have to be on my to-do list one of these days. How fun. And I have seen a monarch butterfly. They're absolutely gorgeous. Has anyone else? Oh, I see. They have. I see that you came back and said that you've seen them. They are. Well, we talked about butterflies, but you talked about bees too, Jeff.
Yes, and I'm going to, I thought I had it here, but I'll share it with you before we get to the end. I have the link to be part of that. I checked to make sure that that program is still operating at the zoo, and it still is, and they still list all of the different plants. So I will get that link to all of you before, hopefully before the end of tonight's presentation. And you're right, Pam, I'm a big bee guy. I don't love bees, but I certainly, they're like my top pollinator. And so what we have here, and I will share this with all of you before I click and go to it. Let me grab this link real quick here. Oop. Easier said than done. Let me throw that in here for you. And that doesn't grab it. So hold on. Let me get to it here real quick.
Oh, wow. I see Evan saying my great-great-great-grandpa founded Bee Culture magazine.
Very nice, very nice. So this is an example of something that gives you an opportunity, and I'll do that right here. I can grab it here this time. And that is the website for you, so feel free to grab that and use it. And Evan, that's great to know. But this is all about the different beekeepers, your local beekeepers that are located all across the country. And so if we go into Ohio, and let's just say we wanted to be able to reach out, and maybe I think Evan and company are located in the Medina area. So I noticed that there's a Medina County Beekeepers Association. There's a Portage County folks have the Portage County Beekeepers. We have everywhere from Geauga, in our neck of the woods, Lorain, Cuyahoga. We've got the Columbiana Mahoning County. And what's great about this site is you can reach out, gives you emails. I'd love to have people reach out to the individual beekeepers and tell them about this opportunity you had with the Green It Up. And more than likely, those beekeepers might take an opportunity to invite you out and see their facility. Or as Pam talked about, they might even offer a virtual connection with all of you. So this is just a very quick overview of all the different beekeepers in the state of Ohio. And that site is, I listed it there, beeculture.com.
And there it is, the magazine of bee culture.
And then another thing that's great to look for, you can use, is if you're thinking about putting together a pollinator garden, and I will share that zoo link with you also, but this is the pollinator.org, and this is a guide for selecting plants to create a pollinator garden. So I'll put in my 44240 is a Kent address, because that's where we're located. And if you look real quick, you'll see that a guide comes up that you can print or that you can keep on your computer. We'll wait a second here for it to start. And if I click on that, a PDF opens up, and it breaks down all the different plants for pollinators. So it gives you an overview of all the different, why do we support pollinators? It goes into the areas that we're in, parts of Ohio. It talks about the benefits of pollinators. And then we get into the area of the country that we're talking about. So we're in this area 221, which extends all the way down south of us. And then it goes into who are all the pollinators. And we've learned all about those today, from the bees to the butterflies. We get into the moths and the flies and the beetles. Right now, I'm inundated with Japanese beetles. I realize that they love to eat, but I also realize that they're pollinators because they move from flower to flower. Unfortunately, in the process, they eat a lot along the way. We have birds, hummingbirds. If you've not seen a hummingbird act as a pollinator, they're great. They're great to watch. And then we go into the different types of plants and the colors that will attract different types of pollinators. So for instance, for bats, you're looking at dull whites, you're looking at bright white, yellow, blue for bees, and then dull white or green for beetles. And it goes through all the different types of pollinators and what colors to look for in your garden. So that's a great resource that's available to you. That is found in the pollinator.org, and I will put that right now in the chat room for you. And that's a guide, allows you to, it opens up that PDF for you. And then the last resource that we looked at, that we're gonna look at, is the Project Learning Tree website. And this is an article where where they talk about a special butterfly garden that was put in the Columbiana County area. And these students started from scratch, and they slowly built this butterfly garden. And some of you, I think, well, we had someone earlier that was in the Salem area, and I think they dropped out of the call. But this would be close to you in Mahoning County. Lisa in Trumbull County would be close to you in Mahoning County. But it gives a whole overview of how they got the butterfly garden started. But even more so, this Project Learning Tree has a wonderful group of resources that are available to all of you that you can integrate when you start talking about, when we go into the stuff about container gardens and all of that, this is an important resource for you also. And I will grab that for you real quick. This will just take you to that article, but it will also connect you with projectlearningtree.org's website.
And as you do that, we're going to put out the outdoor challenge. And here's your outdoor challenge. Go outside and observe the pollinators. Look for bees and butterflies and hummingbirds. And in just a little bit, you could even look for those bats, because at sundown, a lot of times the bats will start to come out, and you can see them flying around your yard as they come out to spend the night outdoors. And then, as Jeff said, look for those beetles and moths and those flies too, because they're pollinators. And when you observe them, do it from a safe distance, but then take your notebook and draw a picture of what you see, or take a picture with your phone or a tablet of those pollinators, and let us know what you find.
And as Pam said, one of the things that I think we learned, many of the things we learned along this little presentation this evening, is pollinators are really important. And we hope that we left you with the idea of why they're important. But also, don't be afraid of pollinators. They do some wonderful things, and they're not around to hurt you. But always remember, you're respecting, as you would respect other animals, you're respecting them at a safe distance. We leave you with the family activity, and what we hope you do is you look at you will eventually get one of these family guides. But 3 of the things that we just threw together for a great family-friendly activity is, first of all, grab your moms and dads and brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and grandpas and grandmas and go on a pollinator scavenger hunt to find local species. And it might be everything from those beetles to those butterflies to those bees. Then, if you want to, go to the bee culture website and look to see what your local beekeeper is, and reach out to them and see if they're interested in having you stop by and talk to them about bees. And then lastly, use that last resource that we talked about, and think about either creating or planting your own pollinator-friendly garden. And next time we're together, we're going to talk about container gardens. So it might be something that you'll begin that process of learning how to put together a garden.
So thank you, everyone, for attending tonight's Cyberchase Green It Up exploration. We're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, and we will have some more exciting videos to watch. And I learned so much from all of this. I'm sure you did too. So we're looking forward to see you tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone. And in the chat room, I gave you that link again that takes you to our webpage. It gives the resources if you want to share with some other folks about the upcoming webinars that we're doing. And once again, we appreciate your time this evening. We hope you learned a lot about pollinators, and we hope to see you, as Pam said, we hope to see you tomorrow night. Thank you, everyone.